My name is Gabi. You're listening to the University of Chicago Public Policy Podcasts.
I have therefore considered it essential to relieve General MacArthur so that there would be no doubt or confusion as to the real purpose and aim of our policy.
On my orders, the United States military has begun strikes against al-Qaeda terrorist training camps.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence by the military-industrial complex.
U.S. warships and planes launched the opening salvo of Operation Iraqi Freedom.
After years of devastating cuts, we're now rebuilding our military like we never have before.
Hello and welcome back to Thank You for Your Service, a hard look at American civil military affairs from the University of Chicago Public Policy Podcasts. I'm Thomas Krasnation.
And I'm Nick Pareso. This is the second of the bonus episodes that we recorded this summer. We're currently in the early phases of production for Season 2 of the show, which we're excited to release beginning in November.
Today's guest is Maggie Feldman-Piltch, the founder of NatSecGirlSquad. NatSecGirlSquad is a startup that provides professional development opportunities for women in the national security field. Maggie joins us today to discuss her organization, gender parity in national security, and issues of diversity in civil-military relations.
We also geek out about the West Wing and the national security stars she looks up to. Maggie, thanks so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So we and many of our listeners know you, Maggie, as the founder of NatSecGirlSquad, and we want to talk about that in a little bit. First, we were wondering if you could tell us why you first became interested in working in national security.
I watched the entirety of The West Wing my senior year of college and was like, hey, I could do that. Seems legit. I mean, I wish I had a better answer for you. That's really it.
That's funny. So what was there, tell us about your experiences since leaving college. What have you done?
Why did I stay? Yeah. Oh, what have I done versus why have I stayed? Two different questions.
Both, yeah.
So I moved to DC less than 72 hours after finishing my undergraduate degree and really did not have a plan. I didn't even have an apartment. I was staying in a hotel until my apartment was ready because someone else was living in it. So I had a pet hedgehog at the time. So I was like this strange child and I had a hotel with a pet hedgehog and I think it raised a lot of red flags for people. And that's fine. But I was an intern at a small think tank called American Security Project, and they were very good to me and realized like, wow, she has no relevant academic experience at all. So I went to Wesleyan University in Middletown, Connecticut, which is famous for many things. And I was a university major, meaning I made up my own major. I studied essentially like theoretical economics and vocal performance. So like neither of those things necessarily incline you towards a career in national security and defense, right? But it did teach me how to think or helped me become a better thinker. Let's put it that way. So I was at American Security Project, along with like 11 other interns, and we were all writing blog posts mostly. And like, I'm a good writer. I have my strong liberal arts background, but I don't love writing. And so I said to the CEO one day, I was like, listen, I can keep writing these blog posts that probably no one cares about, or I can be your assistant for free because you don't have one right now. And I think he was kind of equal parts flabbergasted and like, this is highly logical, but also what are you doing? So his name is General Stephen Chaney. He's a retired Marine Corps one-star. And I think he was like, why is this intern like meandering into my office and giving me this like proposition of what she's going to do for me for 3 months when I have no idea who she is? And he was like, well, you're not wrong. So I started out as his assistant and sort of just like never left and ended up getting to work for him and their whole board. And the rule there was very clear. It's like, work hard, try hard, and don't lie. And those are three things I'm very comfortable with. So I had the opportunity to be a part of a lot of different projects. We led a track to Cuba to meet with the Ministry of Interior and MINRAC's, their Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which was like totally bonkers and doesn't make sense for a 23-year-old or 22-year-old at the time to be doing, but we went with it. I started a podcast there. I helped launch their Business Council for American Security, so to kind of engage with the private sector on national security issues. And I started a fellowship program for women in the space. So And I got to be involved in a lot of different things that they were working on. And I think, it was nothing like what I expected, largely because I didn't know what to expect. And I kept looking for, a new job while I was there and never found anything that was nearly as cool. And so I stayed until I started graduate school. And now here we are, 3 years later.
So you founded NatSecGirlSquad. Do I say the hashtag as part of it? Is it hashtag NatSecGirlSquad?
No, you don't have to.
Okay.
I have NatSecGirlSquad tattooed on my ribcage, and I opted not to include the hashtag. So you can go either way with it.
Okay. So can you tell us what that is, what the mission of it is, and why it's important?
Yeah. So NatSecGirlSquad is kind of a movement for people that care about increasing competent diversity in national security and defense. So we are part professional development community and part social impact consulting company. And those are like a lot of big phrases, and everyone's like, that sounds great. I have no idea what you just said to me. So don't feel bad if that's your reaction to me saying all of those words to you. So on the one hand, I mentioned this like movement, right? So on average, about 15,000 people engage with what we do every month. I'm saying that to you, and it is August of 2019. In November of 2018, that number was just shy of 2,000. So it's been a really busy year.
Yeah.
So on the professional development side, we do anywhere from 4 to 7 events a month. And those focus, like all of our work, across kind of 3 fairly specific aims. The first is to build expertise among people in our community. The second is to build confidence in that expertise, because we know women and what I refer to lovingly as non-pale, male, and stale, so non-PMS people, are 1, less likely to recognize themselves as experts, and 2, have their expertise recognized by other people. So we work really hard on helping to build confidence in our own expertise and having other people be confident in our expertise, right? Recognize us as experts, call on us, have them come be on our podcasts, kind of thing. And then the third, which is kind of the area I'm most passionate about these days, is kind of looking at our existing systems and saying, we don't want to burn all of this down. What can we keep? And what should we get rid of? And where are some leverage points to make things better? So everything we do falls into at least one of those buckets, if not all 3. So I mentioned we do anywhere from 4 to 7 events a month. And that can be like a few weeks ago, we did how to increase and like do a better job on your intel briefing skills, right? We do hiring info sessions. We do social events. We'll go to SoulCycle. We'll go to Core Power Yoga. We'll go hiking. We'll do media trainings. We'll do op-ed trainings. We'll do how do you deal with social media when you're in the IC. We do sessions on how to figure out filling out your SF-86. We do really anything. We'll do kind of a small group dinner or lunch or breakfast with someone who has an interesting career and is like willing to sit down with members of our community and talk about it. So there's all of that happening. We also have really cool partnerships with brands like Lafleur, which is a women's apparel clothing company. And they pretty much only do like workwear, and it is all machine washable, which if you're a woman who has a job that requires a certain kind of attire, that is a huge deal because dry cleaning is super expensive.
Right.
And also Rent the Runway. And we do a lot of conversations on kind of this intersection of your personal style and your professional life. Obviously, our listeners cannot see me, but in addition to NatSecGirlSquad, I am known for having really vibrant pink and purple hair, and my nail color often matches. And so people are like, how are you in this field? And you look like this, like what's happening? And I'm like, well, you just got to lean into it, friends, which is mostly true. So, but that's a really big issue, right? For women in general, particularly women in male dominated fields, and particularly in this field. And we've found that members of our community really benefit from, a place to work through those issues and not have anyone take them less seriously for it. And then 10 minutes later, they can turn around and go to a session on design thinking. So that's a big part of what we do. And then I also mentioned kind of this social impact consulting side. So we are a for-profit entity. We are not a nonprofit organization. And I'm happy to talk about why that is in a bit, if it's of interest. But we have this really great partnership with Guidehouse, which is a government consulting company. And they've basically brought us on to build NatSecGirlSquad, the kind of community that we have internally within Guidehouse, and offer those professional development opportunities, things like that, and have it plugged back into the larger NatSecGirlSquad community. and use it as an opportunity to pilot this idea before bringing it into the federal government and trying to build like little baby NatSecGirlSquad sleeper cells within different agencies. So I really love everything about what we do right now. That's the most exciting thing to me because I get to watch it grow so quickly. That is a lot of information, but that's broadly what we do.
Just to break it down a little bit more. So as you've watched it grow over the last few years, what are some of the achievements that you're most proud of? Like, tell us about some of the progress you've made.
I'm sure other people would have other answers to this question. Let's see. A few months ago, we were doing an event with Rent the Runway, right, on this professional style, personal style thing. 300 people in the room, and this woman came up to me afterwards. I didn't know who she was, and she was like, "Hey, you sent me a job listing, 2 months ago because I sent you my resume 5 months ago, and I start that job on Monday." And I was like, "Well, that is cool."
Yeah, that's awesome.
And because it's been, a few years now, we're starting to see people who came to DC or entered this field wherever they are, because our members are all over the world, who they came to us when they first started out, and now they're a little bit further along and they're turning around and hiring other people, or they're mentoring other people. We're seeing more people who are asking more complicated questions. And by that, I mean, they're like, I know that when I walk into a meeting, I should sit at the table and instead of against the wall. How do I amplify what I'm saying and the voices of other, non-PMS people in the room, right? So when we started, we were really just trying to convince people to not sit on the wall. And so the questions have become a little bit more in depth and require more gaming. And that's a really good sign. So I think we were on NPR recently, which was like a really cool experience for me on a personal level. That's not how we define success, but like, I'm a backseat baby, right? I grew up listening to NPR. So getting to see like Lulu Garcia Navarro in the flesh, I was like, wow, this is the coolest day of my whole life. But it's really cool to see more and more people know what NatSecGirlSquad is and have really specific questions or are really eager to engage in a particular way. Like they come to us and they know what they want before we're like, this is what we do, because they've heard about it before.
And what are some of your goals for the future moving forward?
I mean, definitely world domination, for sure, right? We're really intentional about staying competent diversity, right? We're not interested in anybody getting anything they don't deserve or anything like that. I'm not interested in quotas. I can't tell you that I'm going to be happy when we have 50-50 or 100-0. Like, I don't care about any of that. I think in a perfect world, I would love to see us get to a point where we stop thinking about diversity and inclusion as kind of like these window dressing issues, right? Like I'm really passionate about this because ultimately I have excessive anxiety about so many national security issues while also recognizing that I can't be an expert in all of them. But what I know is that I can trust we have the right people in the room. And so that's what NatSecGirlSquad is about for me. And I think if and when we get to a point where people stop acting as if, this is a warm, fuzzy, soft, squishy issue that just makes people feel better, great. That's not true though. So I would love for the conversation to kind of shift.
To get away from trying to meet certain requirements so that we are quote unquote diverse or quote unquote inclusive. And so the conversation is just more about like whether the right people are in the room, whether the right people have the job.
Yeah. I mean, I think you can't tell, like numbers don't tell you the whole story, right? They never do. They tell part of the story. But if you think you can look at a room and count and decide how diverse you are from there, you're doing it wrong.
So for our listeners who are interested in getting involved with NatSecGirlSquad, how can they do that?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is check out our website, which is shockingly NatSecGirlSquad.com. There's lots of information about how you can join as a member, all of our upcoming events. Our free listserv is there. So we have a Google group that is open to anybody. Of course, we do confirm your identity before you're allowed to access it. And it's like a really great information sharing tool. Our annual conference is coming up in December. You can learn more about that on our website as well. And then, of course, it is a hashtag. So if you are a user of social media, and I would say that only about 20% of our community uses social media, which is not a huge surprise when you think about it, you can find us on Twitter and the like too.
And your logo is a unicorn.